more than just classes.
Now is the time for all of our schools to meaningfully move forward.
Make them all virtual for all.
Mandate a full-time, in-person learning option for all children right now.
When should we open?
Only when it's safe! There are over 111 public school districts that are open full-time right now.
The Zooms are so much more stressful than normal school.
No more screen time.
They're so emotionally fragile.
For the first time in my 17-year career, I'm scared.
We're watching what's going on in schools in other states, seeing school after school have to isolate children, quarantine classrooms, and shut buildings down.
Are my kids safe? They've thought about my child.
If these steps are not successful, we will have to send students home.
1 minute, everything will be okay. Then the next minute, there's another person with it.
We're a year later, into this, and we're not adapting.
5 whole days.
We demand 5 half days at this point.
2 months, what's the point?
We were ready to go back in November. The community rate wasn't.
It was about flexibility and patience last year. Now it's about confidence and resilience.
This is The Next Normal, State of Our Schools. I'm Kristina Behr. Thank you for joining us as we continue to navigate one of the most challenging school years in history and look forward to what many are hoping will be a fresh start in the fall. We're joined tonight by a panel made up of parents, teachers, and students. DrLiz Matheis, clinical psychologist in Livingston. Dr. Robert Zwyicki, superintendent of Mount Olive Schools. Steve Beatty, secretary-treasurer of the NJEA Teachers Association. High school junior Deira Mejia Reyes, and Aisha Qualis, social worker and working mom from Westfield. Thank you all for being here as we try to navigate this very complicated school year. We want to start with a Twitter question we posed to our viewers, and that is, what's been the biggest challenge of the school year? 24% said keeping up with the schoolwork. 53% said lack of social life. 22% say stuck at home with the kids. And Deira, we'll start with you. From a student perspective, what's been the biggest challenge?
I definitely resonate, I think, with the poll results. I would say that the social aspect of school has definitely been changed as a result of COVID. I know even in my school, being in a school that so heavily emphasizes the importance of just teamwork and being able to socialize with one another in order to learn to the best of our abilities, having that sort of taken away through these virtual online classes has definitely impacted, I think, how everyone's coming along, especially too, just being in school, nothing's ever really the same. I come from a very close school, so even me not knowing all of the student body, I think, has definitely been the biggest struggle.
And Dr. Liz, I want to follow up on that with you. This has been a very isolating year, to say the least. How can we get our kids ready to once again have active social lives in and out of school?
I think it's important for us as parents to make opportunities available for kids just by simply going outside. Go outside and find other people or make plans to see people. Of course, maintaining safety precautions and based on how comfortable a parent is with how many kids are getting together or how close they're getting together, maintaining your bubble. But I think it's very important to maintain that socialization in person as much as possible, because that is the most natural way we're meant to socialize as people. And I think our kids are really missing that. And, I know we're all emphasizing that this is our new normal, but we've been doing this for a year. And it's not normal, and it's not the way we want to or are meant to function as students or just as people.
Yeah, that fatigue catching up to a lot of people, too. We've seen parents protesting, demanding their children get back in the classroom. We've also seen teachers struggling with virtual learning as well, be it a lack of digital resources and a digital divide for families in lower income areas, or them simply not having the experience dealing with this type of learning environment. They don't teach this in college. What's the biggest lesson, Steve, this is for you, that teachers have learned from this year?
Well, thank you for the question, Kristina, and thank you for having me here today. The lessons are really far-reaching. I think the biggest lessons is, again, how to adapt, how to make sure that it's, again, at this point, as much about the curriculum, but also social and emotional concerns. As you already heard today, and you mentioned in your Twitter poll, the social and emotional toll this has taken upon all of us, right? Our educators, our students, their parents, and our communities has unfortunately only exacerbated the conditions which we already knew existed in dealing with the emotional, social needs of our kids. So our educators have not only learned and the challenges that they've come with in terms of how to teach in a virtual environment, how to teach in a hybrid environment, but also how to adjust really the way we operate, that we are keeping in the fore of our minds the emotional and social needs of our kids, their parents, and our communities.
Yeah, the SEL classes are going to be more important now in schools moving forward for sure. I want to get to a Facebook poll we also posted to our viewers, and we asked, how would you describe this school year? And a couple of answers here for you guys. Dana says, great. Hybrid is the best. Interaction with the teachers and other kids, yet able to social distance with masks and also remain safe. Anna was saying it's been exhausting, but full of wonderful experiences. And Rob was saying, for my 11-year-old with special needs, quote, it sucks because remote sucks. Now, Aisha, I'm going to send this over to you. You're a mom to a 13-year-old, also helping your 19-year-old niece through college. Obviously, two vastly different learning groups. But what has helped you as a parent through this year the most?
I'm going to say that thank you, Kristina, for having me as a parent on the show. But my perspective is a little different. My children are independent. They are reserved children, so the social aspect, although it is natural for them to always have the social aspect with their daily lives and routine, they are not missing it as much as other children. But again, that's my children's perspective. They are actually flourishing with remote learning. The one concern is that my college student, when things that she doesn't understand, where she would get that in-person touch, answers to questions, she's not receiving that, which is a little struggle for her, but she is resilient. She's pushing through. I am teaching her to email, talk to the teacher as often as possible if you need help. But the best thing for me that worked for my household is teaching them to be resilient, no matter what circumstances they are going through, that they just have to reach out and get the best help during these times, and they're flourishing.
And Dr. Zwyicki, are students going to be prepared, do you think, for next year come fall?
Oh, I think they will be. And, we're lucky to have, a menu of school choice options in Mount Olive. We're open for 5 full days in person for all the kids who want to be in person, but for the kids and families who choose to be remote, they have that choice as well. Our teachers have done a phenomenal job, meeting the needs of all of our kids, regardless of their programming. So I think the kids are absolutely going to be prepared. I think overall we have to have a conversation about the social emotional toll, and then looking at an 18-month academic program after this. But the kids are really resilient. They're really adaptable. I'm also really worried about teacher burnout at going into the next year. But I think the kids will be fine. They just want to get back to school with all of their friends.
A quick break on the next normal, and just a reminder, if you look at your screen, you'll see a QR code. We've been showing it throughout this broadcast. Scan that code with your smartphone camera. It'll take you to the News 12 New Jersey website, our digital coverage page here. Now, more Q&A right after this. Stay with us on the next normal. State of our schools. Another question we asked you on Twitter: are you comfortable with your kids going back to the classroom full time? 65% said yes, 34% said no. Pretty overwhelming results right there. Another question we asked on Facebook: what should be done to prepare for kids returning to school full time? Lisa saying the studies show that schools are the safest place for kids to be. There is little evidence of transmission from student to student or student to staff. Open the schools full time. Ensure those with medical conditions are immunized if so desired. This is from April. Our child denied the vaccine at this time with no availability in our area. And Cindy saying nothing. Kids should be in school full-time in person with the option for virtual for those high-risk homes, period. When will New Jersey start putting kids first? Pretty interesting discussion here. And I'm going to turn it over to Steve, the American Federation of Teachers, questioning new guidance from the CDC to change distance restrictions to 3 feet. Do you think teachers feel comfortable with that, and will you ask to change it?
Well, thanks for the question again, and I'll just broaden it to all of our educators because we represent the 200,000 educators, not only our certificated staff members and teachers, but classroom aides, paraprofessionals of all kinds, secretaries, maintenance workers, and they're all concerned because I think the broader question of the guidance that's coming down, there's a lot of codicils that are with that as well. If this, then that. If they're doing this, then masks go on. If not able to do this, then back to 6 feet. So it's not quite as simple as saying a blanket 6 feet. And we put out information and material, our position statements in terms of what that means and how it should be applied. And it really does become like everything else in the general question of opening schools, whether it's 6 feet or 3 feet, is a case-by-case basis in so many places. We have 600 plus school districts, 2,500 school buildings around the state. Some are perfectly well-resourced to be able to handle that. And we say, sure, we can handle 3 feet because we don't have the number of students and still keep them safe. We have the equipment, and many other school districts are already still struggling, from the conditions that they've been faced with. We know that zip code matters, unfortunately, in very, very deep and meaningful ways around equity issues and the resources that students get. So I think in this case that, we need to take it on a case-by-case basis in places where school districts are perfectly equipped and able to handle the specifics of what the CDC is saying. Otherwise, we still have to look at that, again, where you have to maintain proper guidance, proper distancing, and all the other protocols to keep everyone safe.
And Dara, as a student, what is it going to take for you to feel the most comfortable being back in class?
Well, just being in class right now, I think one thing that we've all learned as a student body, and even the teachers too, is that we really just have to be flexible with what our situation is, And even since the beginning of school, I know even though we went in full time, there was always that, lingering knowledge that anything could happen at any given moment. And, we could be fine one day and be virtual the next. So I think just being really flexible with how we're handling this situation. And also, I think there needs to be a sort of dependence and trust within the community that we're all really just doing the best that we can to maintain our school open and to really learn the best that we can.
And Aisha, do you feel comfortable sending your child back to school?
At this time, I do not feel comfortable, and because of the unknowns and the what ifs, my job allows me to work at home right now, but I may be asked to go back to work at any given time. So if my daughter is in school and then they shut the school because they have to quarantine her class or anything, I'd rather for her to have a structure right now, the same structure and routine. And then in September, when things get back, then she'll be used to that one same routine. So I'd rather maintain the structure and right now. But I must say that our community is really working hard for everyone to, like Dara said, you have to have the trust in the community. And our community is working hard to make sure that the children maintain social distancing, wearing their masks. So I commend our community really, really well. And the teachers are doing the best that they can as well. So all parents, I understand this is a personal choice, but for me right now, I do not want to send my daughter back.
Dr. Zwyicki, your school district has been open and you guys have been taking the special protocol here. And because of the threat of potential outbreaks, those kind of fears from parents are no doubt there. Do you think we would be better off keeping all schools virtual right now and then reopening in the fall?
Not in the least. When you look at the social, emotional, and psychological toll that this has taken on students, we need to get our kids back into school. So offering a program where there's that parental choice is what we've been doing. Starting in September, we were in a hybrid model, but we've been serving lunch to our K-5 students since September. There were times that based upon the current guidelines, because of our contact tracing, we did have to close some schools down in the fall. January 19th was a watershed moment with the change in the guidance. We also started on-campus testing as well in January, which has helped us as well through this process. But now that we understand fully the virus and we're better versed in the mitigation protocols, I think it's completely the right thing to do to have schools open as much as possible. But to everyone else's point, also, it's about trust. We're very fortunate in Mount Olive. We have MERV 13 filtration in all of our buildings. That is not the case throughout the state. So I can't speak for other superintendents when it comes to that. There are superintendents who don't have the HVAC that we do, but want to be open, but have that hesitancy. And then, the whole key to trust is communication. So communicating with the community, communicating with our teachers. I don't make any decision without incorporating, the teachers and our staff members in our decisions. Our plan that we put out there in June, we were kind of in the lead with that we had 70 people on that task force. So we're in constant communication with our staff members. And as much as, we are focused on the kids and doing what's best for kids, schools are run by adults. So we need to make sure that the schools are safe for the adults who work there, and then the kids can come in and grow and develop intellectually and emotionally.
Up next, we'll look to the future, the next normal for New Jersey schools, and what the goal is for the fall. You're watching News 12 New Jersey. Well, as the number of vaccinations rise and schools slowly start to open their classrooms, we still have a lot of work to do to prepare for September. Wrapping up with our panel tonight, students, parents, and teachers hopeful. And I'll ask all of you, what's your best case scenario for the next school year? And are there any caveats you'd want to add? DrLiz, we'll start with you first.
I would love to see our kids all return to school without masks and be able to walk through the halls and have lunch together and go outside and play for recess. Just going back to what we remember school to be.
And Dara, I'm going to ask you that same exact question too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Liz had to say. And I just think getting back to a new sense of normal is really what everyone is hopeful for. And especially, being at school, just getting back to our school traditions and being able to once again just live amongst each other and really have the best high school experience that we can. And, even serving as student body vice president, I think one of the things that the students and the faculty are very excited for is not having to constantly be planning for the what ifs of the school year, always having a backup plan and then another backup plan for that. I think definitely that's something that everyone's hopeful for next year.
Dr. Zwyicki, you are halfway there. You guys have been chugging along with your planning. What do you expect for the fall?
I think we're going to probably be about 95% capacity for our students, and I look forward to going classroom to classroom to welcome our kids back. I think there are two caveats. One, that we are still going to need the virtual option for some students, those who are immunocompromised and can't come back. And then the other caveat is that it's going to be a big celebration, a huge party, but we also need to be cognizant of the trauma that the students and the parents and the teachers have all experienced in this pandemic.
Aisha, talk to me about that too. How are you preparing your little one or your student to go back to school in the fall as well?
I am preparing her to not fear. I'm talking to her about being vaccinated and parents and adults being vaccinated. And I'm just so excited about what's to come for September, for my college student to go back to college and enjoy her normal college life in September for her junior year, because her freshman year was cut short. And like Daria said, I just want the children to go back and have a happy and normal year. And my little one will be in high school, so I want all her memories to be enjoyable.
Yes, a fresh start for sure. And Steve, we'll end with you. What are you looking forward to most in September?
Well, thank you again for having me, first of all. And I would agree with just what everyone has said here. We're looking forward to our schools being open. Every case where they can be, under whatever circumstances that those communities find that is our goal. All of our educators want to be back and be with our students. But of course, we want the schools to look like be warm places for our students. You know, during this crisis, a lot of the schools weren't, you know, the normal welcoming environments for our students. We want students to be able to go back to an environment which is emotionally sustaining for them, where they can see each other and smile, and it's not about worrying. And I think the other piece too is that there's always opportunity in crisis. And we've seen that time and time again, right? That educators working with administration, working with parents, working with communities, legislators, to really take a deep dive now, as we're already doing in so many ways, to see how do we go back to a better normal? What do we do to change the things that were already a problem, causing issues of lost opportunity, equity, and say, how do we now use the resources we have to make schools even better from what we've learned through this crisis?
Let me just follow up with that. Do you think the teacher curriculum is going to have to change come the fall because of what we've learned this year?
Well, I would argue yes, even before this. I think we should have, and there's so many things that should be infused in curriculum. I just got off the phone with a friend of mine I used to teach with, who's a principal, and one of my friends who was an advocate there, one of our union presidents, talking about the direct infusion of social and emotional learning into the curriculum. These can't be check boxes where we say we're going to do something once and forget about it. So to your point, yes, curriculum needs to be designed so students feel that they are valued, that they are respected, that they are bought into what's going on before you even get to what does 2 + 2 equal, or who won whatever war it is. So we do need to make sure that our curriculums are deeply reflective, and the stakeholders have a role in making sure that they do have those outcomes in mind.
Well, thank you all so very much for chatting with us tonight.